Welcome back, guys, to the Gfinity Arena in London for the final match of day one of the Gfinity Hearthstone Summer Masters. It's going to be a great match. It's going to be Legendaren versus NickChipper, the Group B decider. Lothar and Salt still with me on the analyst desk. I mean, Twitch seems to like you guys together, so we thought we'd just keep it going.
Sure. Why mess with a winning formula, right?
Exactly. Well,
you sure they weren't using Kappa, you know, last sentence?
Whoever really knows what Twitch chat means.
There were some questions about who that third guy was and what exactly his job was here, but...
My job is to facilitate
the
wonderful knowledge of you two coming out. I don't actually need to know anything. I've never played Hearthstone.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
You're good at concealing that.
Okay, fine. Well, I mean, you coached me before, so it's really a reflection on you.
Oh,
that's true, actually. Yeah, I've just shot myself in the foot there. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's talk about this game between two players who certainly have played Hearthstone. Both played very well, in fact. NickChipper and Legendaren, our Group B decider. The winner of this, going to top 4, is in the money, and he's going to be facing someone in the semi-finals tomorrow. And we can see the lineups here for NickChipper and Legendaren in just a second.
But I missed the last game from NickChipper, and I thought I heard it was something interesting, right?
Yeah, he, for the most part, played really well, but there was a handlock game where he did the thing that I think we have to confess we have all done at some point, which is the handlock tap with 10 cards.
Yeah, that happened to everyone.
Yeah, and I think that definitely did tilt him a little bit, and his play went downhill from there.
There were a couple of decisions as well. That, I mean, he didn't play the handlock game particularly well.
Right,
I think
that is true, yeah.
It's specifically the handlock game he didn't play very well, and I think he'd be looking to set that right in this match, obviously. Does have to bring the same decks because that's how a tournament works. He'll count his cards every turn. You'll see him just doing it on the screen. But we see from Legendaren, he's also brought Rogue. We saw Rogue for the first time in our last game with Unskiller. Legendaren, the last player of the 8 that we've not seen on stream today. We've managed to actually see all 8 players, which is kind of nice. But we see the Warlock, the Warrior, and the Rogue for him. So that's going to be an interesting lineup. It'll be interesting to see what Warlock he's brought. NickChipper, of course, the only player we've seen so far to bring Handlock.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of style you think Legendaren might play, Lothar.
Well, again, my prediction here is if he's playing like... Do we know he's playing Patron?
Legendaren?
Yeah.
No, we have no information.
It's a safe assumption.
Yeah, it's a fairly reasonable assumption. But
it is. But then again, the Warlock, I think it might be Handlock because it makes sense in this particular setup, right? You have your Rogue against Patron, you have a Handlock, which some players think it's great against Patrons, and it's not bad, of course. It's really decent, but we know you can still lose to Frothings.
Yep.
And then we have the Warrior, which might be tweaked in the mirror matches, or might be just counter Warrior to counter Hunters, counter, and counter Patrons, right? So it might make sense. We'll see how it goes.
It's going to be very interesting to see how these players lines up. As I say, this is their last chance. Win this match and you're in the money. Lose this game and you go home with nothing. What does that kind of pressure do to a player? So you've been in this position before. Obviously, having played in the Gfinity Spring Masters one, getting to the semi-finals. You've been in this match, the match where it's maybe not for the tournament, but it's whether you go home with something or not.
Right. The match for me to get in the money at Gfinity Spring Masters 1 was against Faramir, and I think people universally agreed that is the match I played worse out of the entire tournament. So I think there is a definite real element to that pressure. I played Handlock against Control Warrior. I was playing Handlock, and I managed to burn Gromash with overdrawing off an Acolyte, and then still managed to lose the game somehow, which just shouldn't be possible, but I somehow found a way.
Well, it's not all about you, Sol. Let's concentrate on what we're talking about here.
You asked me a question about my experience. I talk about my experiences, and I get flamed for it, Callum. Like, what do you want from me?
I want to get you back for that quip earlier.
The greater point being that these two players are in a similar position where this is probably the biggest games of their careers so far, a chance to really make a big splash, get some prize money, get some real recognition.
And be still at the day 2.
And still be here in day 2, yeah, absolutely. So who can conquer the pressure? We definitely saw that NickChipper is very a little susceptible to nerves, because we did see him get affected by the handlock misplay.
It might be the case of him not having the nickname Nick. Because at DreamHack we have Nick the Great.
Right.
And he actually managed to pull off some really serious misplays too.
His misplays were once he got to the playoffs, though.
Yes.
So maybe NickChipper's got those out of the way, and now he's just going to go on and dominate.
Reckon.
Well, Legendaren's a name which is familiar to some people from way back in the kind of closed and open beta days of Hearthstone, competing in online tournaments, some kind of smaller European tournaments. Was very strong on ladder, but hasn't really done very much. I mean, he won things like Gosu Cups back in the day when a lot of players who've gone on to become particularly top European players, won things like Gosu Cups and Mana Grind tournaments and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like for the public, people usually know like 20, 25, maybe 30 players, right? From the pros. And then when you ask a pro about the scene, they have vast knowledge about people that are really decent or particularly strong, but didn't have a showing yet. So this is Legendaren is one of those guys, and maybe he will make a name of himself here.
Guys, last predictions of the day. Who do you think is going to win, Lothar?
I would say Legendaren.
So?
I'm going to go NickChipper.
Split up here on the caster desk, on the analyst desk. Let's take it down to our casters, which is Raven and Kali. Take it away, guys, for the final series of the day.
Thank you, Callum. So now we're looking at NickChipper versus Legendaren. I think I was kind of picking NickChipper to go far. I mean, he looked solid against Hawkeye there.
Yeah, definitely. I think apart from what the guys just spoke about, the slight misplays in the handlock game, I think overall his play was pretty solid. I really like his lineup as well, but also I've not seen Legendaren play. And he's playing Rogue in his set like we saw in the previous set as well. So that I've really liked. I think Rogue's pretty strong, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of that in this tournament. So I'm really split as well. Like, I'm not really sure. I like Chipper. NickChipper's choices in Hunter mainly, but the Hunter Warlock Warriors, like we've discussed before, like, the Triforce of good decks or good classes, at least in the current meta. But I really think Rogue might actually make the difference. It normally performs, because we know it's mid Hunter that Chipper's got, Rogue performs okay against it, I think, unless as long as it can get that sort of a decent start at least and not sort of be overrun by Hunter. But other than that, it's going to be pretty even. We are see that the decks locked in are actually Warlock against Rogue.
The thing is that the Warlock is going to be a handlock, so it's going to be very strong against possibly Patron and the Rogue as well. But on the flip side, we have the Hunter as well, good against the Rogue, not maybe as good against the Warrior, but should do well against any Warlock.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Hunter, it's all dependent. It's the way the class plays when you play mid Hunter. It's all dependent on being able to just chain drops early on and just keep that momentum. And then you have things like the kill commands and maybe the quick shots to finish off the game. But against if the Hunter handlock matchup, it's just sort of playing around Molten Giants is the real trick there. But we are going to see it's going to be the Warlock Rogue matchup, and
but how it looks to me at least is, if NickChipper can get a win with the Warrior, I think he's going to be taking this fairly easily. Yeah,
I agree. I think as long as he can sort of take that one win, because like you said, there are a couple of decks here that he's quite weak against with his Warrior. If he can just sort of pip a win there, then he should be pretty steady. Just looking at Van Cleef in Legendaren's hand, like, what do you think about Van Cleef in Rogue? Because I know a lot of players who play Rogue quite a lot, and like it seems really split. Some people love it, some people just think, it's just taking up room for something else. It's very swingy.
I mean, it's good against aggro, it's okay against mid-range, not that good against control, but it's fairly versatile card. I think it usually comes down to playing around the general mid-range combo type of deal, or playing around Hunter only,
Yeah.
And for ladder, obviously Hunter's a big deal, so I think the ladder players probably don't like it as much as the tournament players.
Yeah, that's actually really good information there. And we see that we've got Mountain Giant and Twilight Drake in hand for NickChipper. What he's going to coin out the Drake. Okay, so he's actually he's going to just lose the ability to play that Mountain Giant on turn 4, or
I think more importantly, he's losing out on playing the Emperor on turn 5. But this is a fairly, in my opinion, a basic mistake. Not going for the Ancient Watcher there instead of coining out the Twilight Drake.
Yeah, it would have been a much safer play, and just sort of, you can just chain drop them. You've got and his next turn is probably just going to be the Watcher now, or maybe double Watcher, which is effectively what his previous turn could have been. And what he's gained is, the Drake's on the board, but now it's going to probably go into the Shredder, would you say? And it's just, oh no, he's just going to go face and ignore the Shredder.
It's going to be smaller and losing out on the coin. I mean, I think the idea possibly is he's trying to bait a Sap, but still, you attack in, I think.
Yeah, and I think that could be the only reason actually, just to bait a Sap. But then, do you really want to spend a coin just for them to spend a sap when you've got a hand like Twilight Drake into mounting. Because if he'd just sapped it back, then it's just easy and better to play the turn after. So just get the egg from the Shredder, which isn't too terrible. It's going to sort of be a line of defense against what we can see is 1 Shadow Flame and 2 Hellfires in
An important thing though now is does he tap before playing the Mountain Giant? You know, kind of a key thing for hand locks is actually remembering that every time. And he does not tap. Oh.
Yeah, it's something especially newer players probably won't grasp too much, but it's something Sottle mentioned earlier about it's the way he counts his cards in handlock based on what the Mountain Giant's worth. But being able to squeeze in extra tap, I mean, at 24 health this early in the game, why wouldn't you? But as you said, we've seen NickChipper's just drop their Mountain Giant, and maybe just a slight. Do you think he's just a bit more uncomfortable with this deck? Because it's like we've seen a few errors across different games now with handlock.
The thing is, handlock is probably one of the hardest decks in the meta so far, and I mean, it's hard to play it perfectly, but you need to play it perfectly or not play it at all, you know.
Yeah, you can just get overrun really, can't you? And just you miss out on key things like card draw there.
Yeah.
But and we see the Van Cleave coming down, and actually Legendaren's actually building up a bit of a decent board, and with that egg, it's just he knows he's not gonna. The Shadow Flame coming from the Watcher would actually be a real threat with 2 4/4s on the board, but with the egg, he's probably feeling pretty safe.
Again, it's risky not to Shadow Flame here. A lot of value in Shadow Flaming.
Yeah, the Emperor does just come down. He's got a big hand. He's got key cards like even Molten Giant, which sounds weird that you want on a Molten Giant, but it does make it that little bit easy to play as you do then lose health. It also affects the Mountain Giant as well, so it's not too bad. I think the double Hellfire is going to be just really weird in his hand. I don't even know if it's going to see play, because also he can clear the board a little bit with it. And maybe clear up the egg, but he's going to do so much damage to himself. And look, just look.
This is actually lethal.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay, well, I was talking too much there. With the Blade Flurry and Eviscerate and just leaving those minions up on the board, and it's something you can't do against Rogue, especially when he was sitting on so many cards. If you leave 2 minions on the board and the Rogue's got like 5-6 cards in hand, they can do something like that and just take the win. So Legendaren takes the first game with his Rogue, which is now going to be eliminated.
He looked really solid. I remember him from the early beta. Yeah. Myself, a good player, Legendaren, but he didn't really kind of pop up in the offline tournament scene, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know if people know Luigi's, for example, and Sea Rusher, and these sort of players that did amazingly online, especially early on, but then didn't, go to the big launch. But yeah, I was looking at NickChipper in the match against Hawkeye, and he looked good there, but like, in this first game, he looked really shaky. I think he didn't play the handlock well at all.
Yeah, and as we you touched on earlier, is that the handlock, it's a very in-depth deck. It's not really simple at all to play and to learn, and it's one of those decks where if you're not completely comfortable with it, as you said, maybe you just shouldn't even take it, because the deck is strong, but there are reasons that not everyone just takes it every time, because there are these intricacies that might not help combine with what the current meta looks like.
The thing about I guess tapping with 10 cards, that's like a simple error, just a click. But forgetting to tap with the Mountain Giant is a scenario you should have seen 100 times before and be 100% on.
Yeah.
So not that happy about that. But I mean, looking at the lineup now, Rogue having gotten a win, that was supposed to be an easy one for NickChipper, as he has both the Warlock and the Hunter strong against Rogue in general. But so we have the Warrior and Warlock left from Legendaren. I think what type of Warlock it is going to be very important. I feel like a mid-lock would struggle, but the hand-lock would maybe do a bit better. Yeah,
it shouldn't be too. If it's hand-lock, he's got to be feeling pretty good. Would you think Chipper's going to lock in his hand-lock again? Because if I was him, I would seriously sit and think, this deck, should I, this is going really bad. Like, I'm not having great games with this deck. Didn't have amazing games last set. I've locked it in first this set, and it didn't go well again. Like, you've got to start being a bit nervous. Should he step away and just pick something, say, like Hunter, that he's openly said he's by far the most comfortable with? He tells people that he is a Hunter player, and maybe get a win on the board and just be like, right, I've hopefully took a game and just calm down, and then maybe I'll come back to handlock later.
The thing is, if you're talking yourself into such an emotional state where you have to pick something for confidence and you're letting your emotions control your play, you're not in a good position at all. I think the main thing is he needs to win with a game with a Warlock. It's the best against Legendary's lineup. So if he's picking Hunter just because he doesn't feel good about the Warlock, then that's already a big thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a negative mindset, isn't it, straight away? So yeah, you're right there. And you know what? He's got well, maybe not 50% chance, even though there are 2 decks, but if he did just lock in the Warlock again and Legendaren locks in the Warrior, then he's probably feeling pretty comfortable. That's probably his best chance of taking a game.
And he goes for the Hunter, yeah.
Also, he has switched to a comfort pick.
This is not good, yeah. Oof.
He has lined up versus Warrior, which is a good matchup, though. So it's not too... I don't mind that matchup, personally.
I think it's a mediocre matchup, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like, I don't think it's like heavily favoured at all, but I think it's like... It's fairly comfortable for the Hunter. It's not like, oh god, like this is bad, this is going to go wrong. But yeah, we see that NickChip has fallen back onto his comfort pick and maybe does what, like I said, want to step away from that handlock. But as you said, it's an emotional state, and if it comes later, that he does have to win with it at some point, and maybe it's already gotten to him.
I mean, the thing is, if he's already lost to the Rogue and to the Warlock, I mean, and to the Warrior, what's he gonna win with handlock? I mean, like, he's gonna be in trouble. I think. Yeah,
I mean, if there's only the Legendaren's Warlock left, and it ends up being the Warlock mirror, then again, I've not seen Legendaren play, but you know, you said he's really good. He seems like really solid with his Rogue at least. So like again, it's just one of those mindset things that NickChipper might just be a bit offset, whereas Legendaren looked pretty calm as well, just really relaxed and was just played the game.
This is the thing. I mean, you don't want to be predictable in your picks, but picking the strongest class is often the best way. As I mean, now he hasn't won a game with the Warlock. If he just picked the Warlock and beaten the Patron or whatever, and then now he goes with Hunter against the Warrior, and he could possibly lose that, you know. And then
I think if he loses this game, he's in some real trouble. It's just gonna. I think it's gonna be almost impossible. Anything's possible, you know. He can 3-0 back again, but this is a game that he really needs to win to have a chance.
I think it's already quite bad, yeah, for NickChipper here. We're going to the game momentarily here. But the Warlock, though, we haven't seen that so far. I mean,
yeah, I actually have no idea what the Warlock is.
We haven't seen a midlock yet in this tournament, though, and we had 1 handlock and 3 malilocks or 4 malilocks, I believe.
Yeah. It's really surprising actually, because in a lot of other tournaments I've watched the past, say, few weeks, months, like the sort of zoo/midlock or whatever you want to call it is really popular, and I think it's because the ability to just snowball and just take a win is pretty okay versus most matchups. So it's a really safe pick, and it's a deck I've actually picked before in tournaments and has done quite well. But just not to see anyone play it is really surprising. People from way more favouring the Malygos lock, which is something a bit unexpected to me at least.
I wonder if there's been like a sharp meta change the past 1 or 2 days, or we've just had a group of players which all kind of secretly practice Malilock, or what's going on here. But a Patron against Hunter. Yeah. The problem with this matchup is there's no good 1-drop against Warrior, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we did see, I think we just saw a Lepanome there, which is as good as it's going to get, really. It's not terrible. He does drop it on turn 1. He's actually got a really good hand, Lepanome into Creeper, Juggler, and even with the Snake Trap. I think with the Snake Trap, though, he's got to want to try and get that out early before Patron craziness can happen.
I actually prefer Worgen over Leper if you have to pick a 1-drop, but it's pretty similar, I guess. There's no Fire Warlocks, no Taskmaster to really punish this, so I'm looking at a Loot Hoarder. That's not what you want to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, the Loot Hoarder just trades straight away. It could easily die to a Juggle because you've got to just presume the Hunter's got another either 2-drop, 1-drop, or 3-drop.
You go for the Snake Trap, you know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Play it safe.
Oh, and he's going to drop the Berserker, which we've seen quite a lot this today of like Berserkers just being dropped on the board, and I think in this matchup it's actually more of a correct play, just because it actually challenges the minions really well. And if Juggles hit, and then he just has to trade. If like 1 Juggle hits, then he has to throw the Juggler in.
I actually don't agree with you at all about this being the correct play. I think the Loot Hoarder in the Deathbite is much stronger in terms of getting the turn 3 Deathbite, you know. As now it's really awkward. Is he going to drop a lot of pain in? I mean, it's unlikely that scenario is going to be very strong anyway, so he's going to have to go for Loot Hoarder now and lose the coin completely.
Yeah, true. I think the use, if it was just a turn 3 play, it would be much better, but the use of the coin when it, you know, like you said, he does have the Deathbite up and ready to go, probably, yeah, that's fair enough. I understand your point there, to just, might be a bit too much of an investment for not a lot of outcome. He did have to trade the Juggler in, so that's not too bad, but just see NickChipper's just drawn his second one. But again, as the game goes on, Juggler's not really a key card in the matchup, because you don't want to juggle into stuff like Acolytes, Armor Smiths, and Patrons even.
Yeah. So we have, I believe, a freezing trap and a juggler on the board. Don't mind this at all. I mean, the hunter, the hybrid hunter, has to kill the warrior before the combo, but I mean, only one combo piece in hand. You have the Emperor though, so if he draws a patron, this might get interesting, but...
Yeah, I think he definitely has to draw into something next turn, part of the combo, because Emperor's great, it's an amazing card, but when you play it in this deck, you drop it turn 6, but there's only really Warsong and sort of Ghoul that's really getting any benefit, then it doesn't change enough. Whereas you can see, I mean, NickChipper's really had a good curve, and, you know, drawing into the Shredder was huge. It's just another minion to put pressure on. That Leponome is effectively 4 damage at the moment. It's going to hit in and then do another 2 when it dies as well. He doesn't keep up with the hero powers going forward, and you're completely right. The Hunter, especially the hybrid Hunter, needs to take the game very quickly versus the Warrior.
I think it's face here, no question.
Yeah, I think you just go for it. Like, why not? And you see that Legendaren's not actually had like armor smiths, which are like key cards in this matchup, like because they trade so well. And just trying to build the board up with say like a Ghoul and an armor smith, you can at least try and survive. But like another Fiery War Axe, he's already got the Death Spite. He doesn't want to see more weapons.
The thing is, you can put him down to 10 health, and does he really care about what Legendaren has been drawing? It's more about, you know, I guess how much mana he has. So I feel like this is not what you want to go for as NickChipper.
Yeah, because this is a normal turn 5. Emperor's not been on the board, so it's not. There's nothing too crazy that can even happen. And then
I mean, best case scenario would be like patron enrage, but it's unlikely. And even if he goes for that, he's still screwed. Like.
Yeah, there's still so much pressure you can put out, even with just a hero power, like, because the Warriors gonna have to use a lot of like the whole mana to actually play that turn, in which they're not hero powering. So the Hunter hero power and the Warrior hero power normally negating themselves, just doesn't happen. You just even 2 more damage in front, like, changes everything in this matchup. The Leponome's gonna do another 2 here. The Juggler's gonna die, and the Shredder is open to an execute, but pretty much seeing this.
This is too slow, I think.
Yeah, NickChipper will know he's not got execute as well, and he can actually trade, kill this off, and then follow up with Lotheb, and then the 3-2 is actually really good as well. So follows up with Lotheb, and what answer can Legendaren even have in his hand in a perfect world?
I think Emperor. I mean, from before though, if he'd gone for Frothing before, he could have now, you know, triggered the freezing trap.
Yeah. Yeah, and the freezing trap's actually still on the board. You're right. So. It's just NickChipper's definitely ahead in this game, and I'll be amazed if he doesn't manage to quite close it out.
Yeah, it's gonna be, even with Patron here, it's not gonna be enough, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that could maybe save him is
Doomsayer,
or drawing into. Yeah, I don't even think Armor Smith. There's no way. He only has 1 Whirlwind effect, so I don't even think an Armor Smith would be enough.
It's gotta be Patron here, though.
I just don't think it matters now, does it? Because he can't trade into the can he trade into the Shredder to get the drop and then kill the drop as well? I think he'll need to do all of that and armor up to have any chance of surviving.
Maybe with like Warsong Frothing Luchtorer into Doomsayer or something. But it's gonna be a long shot here.
Yeah, I see Legendaren's just taking his time, just working out what he can do. He is going to hit the Shredder by the looks of things, and just hope against hope that it's that time you get Doomsayer when you actually want it. He's going to dig with the oh no, he's actually going to prot the freezing trap, of course, with the loot hoarder, which is fine. So it leaves him, frees him up to trade into there, and it's not what he wanted to see, and that's going to be a game. So NickChipper, you know, he did change to his Hunter, which, like you said, you didn't particularly agree with, but you know, he has got a win on the board, which I think was really important, at least for his mindset. Whether it was a mistake to flick onto Hunter and get the win and then have to return back to handlock again, he did get the win on the board, so he's got to be feeling a little bit better about the series now.
The thing is, if you're playing handlock, this is exactly the type of lineup you want to face. If you're playing handlock, you need to be confident enough with your handlock to be able to go for it again and again, you know. Yeah. And not be upset about one loss there. So it's going to be 1-1. I mean, NickChipper still has a stronger lineup here, but I mean, not looking as strong as Legendaren, I have to say. Yeah,
and Legendaren's probably not like crazy upset about that game either, because yeah, he played against Hybrid Hunter and Hybrid Hunter curved. So you lost, you know, and you didn't draw Armor Smith or any of the maybe more defensive tools. So yeah, you're probably not too upset about it. Just I imagine we're going to see the Warrior locked in again. because why not at this point? He has the he does have the Warlock and then Chipper's Warrior, which he also knows is Patron. So maybe not the best matchups though to actually have Patron on your side. It's either a mirror or a handlock. So he might just lock the Warrior in just to try and just get the win that he obviously needs to finish up the series.
Yeah, I think though in the last match it all came down to that not coining the that Despite out, but getting the frothing instead, and then having an awkward turn 3 after that.
Yeah, because he managed to force the juggler into the frothing. But like you said, if that was a turn 3 play, I thought it's a good play. It's fine. But using the coin when, like you said, you have Despite, you have other cards to do stuff.
You also
with,
have a look order, possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's not like there was no play either. And even to a certain extent, armoring up against an aggro deck, at least it's something a bit more. Whereas just coining out the Berserker didn't do too much in the long run.
It didn't indeed. Now looking at though from Legendaren, what's he gonna pick now? He's lost with the Warrior, won with the Rogue, has the Warlock left. Maybe just go for the Warlock even. Yeah,
he's gone for the Warrior. And so both players have locked in the Warrior, which is fine. I imagine Legendaren just put in Warrior because, again, it's a good deck. He effectively just got smoked, so fine, it happens. It's the way Hunter can beat Patron when it's hybrid, so whatever. And he'll just play it again, probably confident that Chipper might be leaning away from the Warlock again. So he's okay to play the Mirror. And to be honest, with some of the plays we've seen previously with Patron, with maybe across a few players actually, it's a difficult deck to play. And maybe he's Legendaren's pretty confident with it and thinks, yeah, I can take the Mirror if that's the case pretty easily. He's probably really happy about dodging the Warlock as well.
I have to say that, but now seeing he does have the coin, but in the Mirror it comes down to Despite mostly. So I think Despite would probably be the only card kept here out of the 7.
Yeah, something that, again, Sottle's actually said earlier today, but something I remember him saying to me, something I really take into account when I play Patron Mirror, is that he's basically said if it's Despite, Patron, and
Inner
Rage, yeah, you just keep it. And anything other than that in the Mirror is just you just don't keep at all. And you just throw trying to get those 3 cards, because that turn 5 is so strong. Unless the other Warriors got like the perfect answer, you almost certainly win the game. We are going to see that Legendaren's got double Despite and a Patron, and even an Execute's pretty good in this matchup. If early Patron comes out from NickChipper, he's got the weapons to actually kill them off, and he can execute one as well. So it's not bad at all.
Now, Fireworks, I don't like at all. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure too much what it does, especially when you've got Despite in hand. I mean, I suppose he doesn't have Patrons yet, so maybe he's just saying, as he draws a Patron, maybe he's just thinking, I'll use the weapon, try and trade away with some what I can, maybe just do some face damage, reduce the armor. But I don't know, just having the Despite in hand, I think I just prefer the armor up.
I agree with that. The thing is, you'll have the second Despite maybe turn 6, 7, and at that point you should be able to drop the Acolyte in there as well, get 2 draws out of it at least.
Yeah, and you can see that the Acolyte's just gonna get murdered. One of the few emotes we've seen all day, I think. I don't think we've seen too many. I know we saw it at Hawkeye vs Deathlord. There was a few sort of friendly teammate emotes going on there, but hello there. Yeah, this is gonna be really rough because. Oh, and he's just going face, and he just wants to try and go for the damage. I mean, to be fair, Legendaren's on 12 health, so and NickChipper, yeah, he's sitting pretty comfortable at the moment, health-wise at least. He's not got.
Oh my god, yeah. But I mean, he's got Armor Smith at least, so if
he needs a Whirlwind effect. Okay, so you just Armor Smith Whirlwind and just win eventually.
Attack first, though, thankfully, yeah. But
yeah.
Yeah, you go for the Whirlwind test, yeah. I mean, there's no coming back from this anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the second Whirlwind happens, the game's pretty much over, because although NickChipper did have a chance, as long as Legendaren didn't draw any Whirlwind effects, but as we can see, like, that combined with the Armor Smith just puts him so far out of reach, especially with what NickChipper's got in hand. And with, like you said, with 6 mana, what can anyone even do? There's been no Emperor down yet, of course.
Possibly Brawl. I mean, they was running for a week or so. Until people
a few people have been playing Brawl. I think it's to you only really play it for other Patron decks, though, right? I think that's the problem. In a tournament format, you're playing 1 card in your deck for like one other specific deck build, which you're probably going to see a bit. But we've seen today, not everyone's playing Patron.
Yeah, it comes into handy sometimes against like Zoo or some mid-range deck like that, maybe Mach Mates even, but in general it's not what wins you the game.
NickChipper's just sitting thinking about what he can possibly do, but I imagine he's going to come to the conclusion pretty quick that the answer's probably not a lot. Because if he attacks with this weapon as well, somehow, it's just going to give so much armor. Oh, because he's going for the execute. But what's the follow-up?
Gotta be hope for a whirlwind next turn. I mean, if he gets a whirlwind, it's close to lethal.
And another armor smith. And there we go, that's going to be the game. I was going to say, why didn't he Taskmaster, but he didn't need to because he's got the axe. So Legendaren takes the Patron mirror, and to be fair, a lot of this, or at least my experience, I don't play tons of Patron, but my experience of the mirror is, as long as you can build the Patron first and early enough, like the turn 5, and especially with double in a rage, it builds so much more to deal with. You're just so far ahead. There's not really much NickChipper could have done there. He made a good effort taking him so low, but the Armor Smith onto Whirlwind from the Battle Rage was just game there.
But well played from Legendaren. I think definitely he improved over the game 2 to game 3. I think there, yeah. Played the Patron much better now, and I mean, he's only got the Warlock left at this point. We have Patron and Handlock from Chipper. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I think it's really going to depend what Warlock he's brought as well, because I actually genuinely don't know which Warlock it is. I've not seen any of his games, and I don't actually think spoke to him, but you know, we're going to see.
So we're going to go to a short break and then be back for the rest of this series. Will Legendaren take a 3-1, or will NickChipper come back?
Say I spend too much time in the forge. They think it ain't befitting a king. Ha! You don't forge legendary weapons like mine while sitting on a throne. The lands of Cosmodan are mine. And when I bring the pain, lads, it's hammer time!
And we are back here for the Legendaren against NickChipper, the 6th series of the day. The last guy to make it to the day 2 here for the semifinals.
Yeah, and this is such a huge game for both these guys. I know the guys over at the analyst desk were talking about how important it is, and me and Lothar were discussing it before that about not that the money's fantastic and the money's definitely good for a couple of days worth of Hearthstone, but just the opportunity to really put your name on the map, so to speak, and just really have a breakout performance from these guys is going to be huge, and definitely playing on the mind as well. I mean, Legendaren's 2-1 up. He only has to win one more game, and he's through to tomorrow, and that's it. So pretty huge. Whereas NickChipper's got, I think, a bit of an uphill battle. We've seen he's been struggling with his Warlock a little bit. Not massive misplays or anything like we said earlier. Some just things that can happen to anyone, but just overall feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And we did see him switch out after the losing the first game, which you didn't particularly agree with. And he does have the Patron deck as well, which we saw it was a bit of a weird game. I don't think we can really go off NickChipper's Patron performance in the previous game, because the matchup almost played it. You just lose when your opponent has those cards and can play Hearthstone. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit of an uphill climb, but I think it's still possible for NickChipper to take the win. Definitely. Really interested to see what Legendaren's Warlock's going to be.
I think the main thing is, you know, he's 2-1 up, and that's more than just, you know, the one game. It's all the tempo, all the psychology. Like you couldn't be further ahead almost. And after losing like that, you almost have, you know, start thinking about tomorrow and stuff, you know. So
yeah, and also being at 2-1 up, it's like knowing you've got this deck that you've chosen for a serious tournament, and you've got to, at worst, win with it 1 out of 2 games. Like, you've got to like those odds, you know, like, unless the matchups are horrible, you've really got to like the odds to play a deck you're comfortable with and to win 1 out of 2 in someone that you think's at least your equal.
Oh yeah, and now we have this being the Mali lock, and if played correctly, that beats Handlock straight up.
Yeah, because Molten Giants pretty much just don't exist in NickChipper's deck, or don't have to exist, because you don't need to get the handlock low as Maligos. You can just wait out the game, negate the Molten Giants, and then just kill him from, say, 20 or, you know, 18, whatever.
The main thing, though, we've seen a lot of players play the Mali lock, and a lot of them are making the mistake of using the Soulfire too early and not being passive enough. The main thing is there's 2 Owls, there's 2 Big Game Hunters, so you have all the counters for the Twilight Drake and the Mountain
Yeah, and also the abusive with the big game as well, so even cards that maybe you couldn't normally big game hunter, you can, so it's just a additional removal, like you said.
Oh wow, this is not good. You'd rather pass than go for this. The thing is, you want that Emperor earlier, you want the 5-drop earlier, but I mean, it's gonna work out since he has both the Iron Peak and the Mortal Coil here.
Yeah, that's pretty good and definitely what he wants to see. And even with another Drake in hand as well, so although he might go for the Azure Drake next turn as, say, the natural play to just draw another card on turn 5, the Twilight Drake's a possibility just to build up the board more as well. Double Implosion as well, like, that's pretty... It's going to be pretty strong at dealing with some of, say, the Taunt Givers and stuff like that in the handlock deck. So we do see Lotheb just get thrown down. It's almost certainly going to die. And Blackwing Corruptor's definitely going to help with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't ask for much more than that.
The thing is, though, in the I guess the Mali lock versus mid-range or aggro matchups, you really care about the health total and the tempo. But against Huntlock, you care about the tempo over 4 or 5 turns, you know. Yeah. So that's why you would not go for the coin Twilight Drake right there.
Yeah. So in this position, if you were playing as Legendaren now, would you continue to push for damage? Because the handlock's now on 15. He might be sitting on double Molten, which we know NickChipper is. But would you continue pushing, or would you just try and just draw and draw and draw and draw to burst in one go?
Well, generally I would just, like you say, draw and draw and draw, you know. Unless I smell something really fishy, you know, in terms of weakness, you know. I guess, yeah, playing nothing or having to discard a card or something like that, I guess. You know, no turn 4, for example. Then maybe you think, oh, he doesn't have anything. Maybe he just has a lot of, like, AoE removal or something. I can go aggressive, but without having picked up some major cue that there's going to be weakness from NickChipper, you should just be tapping and I guess playing cards, but...
Yeah, and to be honest, with Soulfire and Dark Bomb in hand and an Azure Drake, he doesn't quite have the mana, of course, but he's got a lot of damage with it. I wouldn't even mind Twilight Drake pass to a certain extent.
You have to tap though.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I just mean like just the Drake and not attack, and just hold off. Just 5 on 7 mana. The Molten's being 5 is actually a little bit awkward. The Sun Fury is definitely going to help with that now. But in general, we're trying to get a Defender of Argus in as well. You're just not going to. So the fear of double Molten Taunt is much less at, say, 5, and it's pretty safe. And Legendaren knows he can pretty much kill his opponent as long as he doesn't heal or taunt next turn.
I mean, thinking about the coin Twilight, maybe, like, if he has a second one, I could see that, you know.
Yeah, to just chain drop them.
And if he has maybe an Owl, Mortal Coil and the BG8, so he has a guaranteed counter for turn 4, and he just wants to get 2 hits in.
Yeah, because
I can see that, but I mean, if it hadn't been the top deck Twilight Drake or the, I guess the Twilight Drake from his opponent, he would have just had nothing on turn 4.
Yeah, because one of the issues as well is that if NickChipper answers with a Mountain Giant, he didn't really have it, and then the Mountain Giant just kills the Drake that you've coined out, which he didn't actually
had to go for Implosion or something. Yeah, you have to hit well as well.
Yeah. NickChipper's just taking his time here. It's a bit of an awkward turn. He can sort of get a few taunts up. He's going to play Molten into Sun Fury, so I guess the best he could really put together. I mean, maybe a Siphon Soul on one of the higher health Drake, but what does that actually do? It just gives your opponent another turn, and you still, you know, 18 health isn't exactly a lot, and that's pretty much his whole turn right there.
You need to save that for the Emperor or the Malygos in this case, but now no Owl for Legendaren. Do see the Dark Bomb?
Yeah, the Drake is going to survive if you choose to throw in the 4-9 though, which, although susceptible to Mortal Coil, it keeps the other 4-5 on the board as well. So I think you do want to. I think I would rather have a 4-1.
I like this better from Legendaren actually.
Okay.
I would probably have traded in, but you know, in terms of having the 4-9 instead of the 4-5. The thing is, you know, instant multi Shadow Flame is such a big
I was
thing.
going to say, yeah, to be fair, I suppose Shadow Flame's definitely a danger. Although, I am surprised he didn't kill the 2-3 there.
I think he's now mostly thinking about, you know, like he's already seen one Molten Giant, and he didn't see a tap into second one last time, so maybe he figures there's going to be no Molten, but we do see a Molten in hand here. I mean, but other than, like, I guess, Molten Siphon probably is going to be the play.
Yeah, that's not going to be bad at all. I mean, he's not really got too many other options. He can 5, 6. Yeah, he's not got anything that's anywhere near defensive enough. He could molt and watch Argus, and just hope for not spells. He's just seen one Dark Bomb, to be fair.
Yeah.
So you know, there's one less direct damage spell that you're afraid of, but the spell damage on the Azure Drake's actually quite a big issue. Even just the +1 spell damage is scary. He's actually going to go with the Molten Giant into the and the Coil. That's okay. That's not a bad play either. He gets a card draw, cycles a bit more, maybe into something a bit more useful, and still puts a large taunt up on the board.
I think tapping before wasn't horrible. The thing is, he'll need something for next turn, and he'll also need the heal bot eventually. But again, I mean, you need to tap first Legendaren as well. You need to go for the Owl.
Yeah. I think he needs either Owl or maybe I wouldn't mind Drake too much, because you can make use of the spell power.
Yeah, it's not bad as well.
Yeah, because the Soulfire and it's not great, but the Soulfire with the Drake would actually clear off the Molten.
The thing is, you have 2 PGHs and 2 Owls. You've used one Owl already, I guess, but
yeah. But the odds on you drawing one of those at this point in the game just get progressively so much higher when you're trying to like tap every turn. And he is going to go for double Implosion, which is okay.
So many outs though. Like, why not just go for the Astral Drake?
Yeah, it's not like he was dead next turn either, so he had to kill the Molten Giant. The Molten Giant, yeah, it could have done 9 to face, but he's on 23 with 2 heal bots. He's probably not going to die next turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is easily clearable for the Huntlock, so it's not a lot of pressure as well.
I wonder.
The thing is, though, there's nothing in his hand instead of maybe like Belcher.
Yeah, it's a real tough one, because NickChipper's probably going to be feeling now that at any turn, sat on 11 health, he can just die. Like, even regardless of minions, because, you know, we're coming up to turn 9. Yes, we've not seen the Emperor from the Malygos lock yet, so you're not afraid of anything too crazy. But even he's seen one, he's only seen 1 Dark Bomb, right? So there's still another Dark Bomb and potentially 2 Soulfires there. So there's a lot of damage that can just come out of nowhere.
The thing is, though, he dies to 3 spells guaranteed, you know, and he dies to Owl guaranteed as well. So he figures, I might as well tap.
Yeah, I completely agree with the tap. He has to tap into something, or all you're doing is just dying a bit more slowly, without getting into anything too strong. And there's the big game hunter. We're maybe a little bit too late. We do see there's 2 mountains in hand, but are we even going to see those played this game? Like, I'd be surprised if we see both played at least.
To be honest, either he stabilizes with the heal bot or dies, you know. So if he stabilizes with the heal bot, we're going to see the mountains, I think. Yeah. But the main thing is you need to have Mountain early and start pressuring Legendaren. It shouldn't be the other way around, because in the late game, you know, you win as the Malygos due to the burst, but Malygos is what you need. It's gonna have what, 9 burst next turn with just the Soulfire alone, without even the combo in terms of Emperor combo before. But yeah, I mean, just anything at this point.
I sort of like Hellfire here, because he's now got Malygos into Soulfire next turn.
The thing is, if he has Jiraxus or Healbot, he survives either or, you know.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So you kill him next time anyway. There's no 3 health to play around, you know. 3 healing, I mean. So 9 or 6 doesn't matter. He's dead either way.
Yeah, he's going to go for Hellfire, because I was thinking about Drake first, but you don't want to give him an obvious target to then try and go for a Siphon Soul.
Because now if he goes for Deductions, it would be worse, though. We'd rather have the Hellfire left. I mean, doesn't have that, really have to tap. Or possibly Siphon Soul. I mean, still
Siphon Soul is still dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did like the Hellfire there, because it puts you in a position where unless he plays, yeah, you know, the Draxus is always in out and the heal bots are, but you'd imagine with the plays your opponent's made, like, he probably would have dropped a heal bot by now. He's already dropped 2 Moltons, so the whole trying to manage your health for those has gone out the window a while back. So if he'd had the healing, he would have probably played it by now, because he's had decent board positions. I mean, we did just see like 4 imps on the board, and he, you know, just dropped the Belcher, which is not the most threatening board in the world. Whereas if he had a heal bot, you'd imagine you play the heal bot over that.
For sure, I think this comes down to what. But again, with Chipper, I mean, the thing is, yeah, he'll die to 2 spells anyway. So
I think you just have to tap for something just like super secure, because you either tap or, you know, yeah, I was gonna say he's just playing well played there, because, you know,
that's kind of BM though. Like, I've gotta give it to Legendaren. I mean, this is not a friendly match, you know. This is for money, for serious business. So
yeah, I see NickChipper looks a little bit disappointed, and Legendaren looks pretty happy, and I don't blame him. He's now through to tomorrow. Really just strong play overall. I don't think there was particularly anything, just really just steady play. There's nothing that I can even recall that I even particularly disagreed with.
I have to say the coin out.
Oh yeah, the coin on
but other than that, I mean, like, he looks strong for tomorrow. I think he could definitely make the finals.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's a really strong challenger for tomorrow.
His lineup is also strong. It's almost my lineup. Yeah.
Oh really? I really like, and I said this when I cast the last game with Unskill, I really like the inclusion of Rogue, and it sort of works even better because there's only, I think, 2 people in this tournament that have took Rogue, which, although 2 out of 8 doesn't sounds like a reasonable amount, when you look at decks like Patron and Malygos Lock that nearly everyone's bringing, and even Hunter to a certain extent, bringing a deck that's not really playing against too much. It's just not a true surprise factor, because everyone's played against Oil Rogue probably a million times, but just something a bit different when you come up against an opponent you've not faced before.
Now, the Oil Rogue actually beats Patron, and it beats the Malygos as well. So, I mean, we've seen a ton of Patrons, a ton of Malygos. It does kind of lose to the Hunter, though, but depends on the draw. But in general, a bit rough there. But for Legendaren making it through, we have Tom, we have Hawkeye, and we have Unskilled. Should be exciting day tomorrow. So we're going to throw over the analyst desk. Callum, take it away.
Thanks, guys. There you have it. Our final match of the day. The very much skillful Unskiller, of course, in the top 4, along with Tom, Hawkeye, and now Legendaren. We have our semi-finals for tomorrow. We're going to take a look at those matchups in just a bit. But Lothar, what did you make of that final game? Particularly the final game of that series was so swingy. The victory was in his clutches for so long, and he just couldn't quite grasp it.
Well, he should have tapped more. But in general, like the Dragon Warlock is so favored against Handlock, it's not even fair. The inclusion of 2 big game hunters and the Soulfires and Dark Bombs and, you know, the Malygos itself, it's like such a huge advantage. You can only lose if you don't hit that first answer to the first Mountain Giant.
Exactly. That's it. So you have some shade to throw at our casters for their casting those.
I do, yeah. I guess I just want a white knight for NickChipper for a bit. He came into some criticism for the Rogue game. First off, for the Handlock against Rogue game, he was playing the Handlock. First off, for coining Drake when the rest of his hand was Mountain Giant Emperor. That was wrong, for sure. No criticism about that. But then the casters kind of made a big deal about him playing Mountain Giant without tapping when he had the 1 mana surplus, which, you know, Handlock players always know that you can always tap, generate the extra card, get the 1 mana cheaper. And they gave him quite a hard time about that play as well. But in fact, against Rogue, that play's probably correct because you play around Sap by not filling up your hand. So if he'd have tapped and played Mountain Giant, then Sap sends the Mountain Giant back to his hand. He has 10, and then he overdraws and burns a card the next time. So not tapping in that situation is actually probably correct.
Well, there you go. So sort of laying it down on our casters there. But a great job, obviously, by Alex and by Caldi as well. Lothar, we've come to the end, obviously. Legendaren is the final person making it through to the top 4. We only got to see this one match of Legendaren, but he seemed to be playing very well. I was really impressed with what we saw from him. What did you make of him, and do you think he's a contender?
Yes, of course, he is a contender. As I said before, I know him from way back. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I remember his nickname from the tournaments. He always was doing decent. So yeah, I think he has a shot, a really big shot in.
He's one of those players who you always thought had disappeared and never to be seen again. Like you think of of Puffin and players like this who took part in a lot of early tournaments, and we all remember the names. But whatever happened to them? Well, we found out today what happened to Legendaren. He's here and he's winning. Soro, what did you think of NickChipper's performance? Because he played pretty well, but I think it's I don't know. I guess we'll get your thoughts on this, but it seemed like his handlock play was kind of a weakness.
Yeah, definitely some of the like I said, the choice to coin Drake with his hand being Mountain Giant Emperor was strange. But I think his play tightened up that series compared to the last series. For example, in the Patron Mirror, when he got extremely far behind on board because of the double in a rage, Deathspite Whirlwind with the Patron, he recognized straight away that the correct line was hit face with Deathspite. That's the only way I'm going to win. Unfortunately, the Armor Smith was in hand to shut that down, but he very quickly just went, okay, well, I know I've been in this situation. The only way I'm going to win now is go face and burst him with Frothing. So he was recognizing situations and lines of play a lot better than he was in previous games, I think. I think maybe if he'd have had a little bit more time, maybe one more set left to play in the tournament, he might have really brought it all together, and we might have seen like final form NickChipper. But yeah, I think he was definitely working towards his.
Well, we'll have to wait and see Super Saiyan NickChipper. But let's take a look at the groups here and see how those have turned out. Obviously, you can see Tom 60229 and Hawkeye taking the wins 2-0 each. But we did say, Tom 60229 not necessarily on his best form, but was able to close out the group. We saw Unskiller as well getting through in second place, impressed us in his final game. Both these players who've come second, we only saw their final games, but I think they both looked very impressive. Legendaren and Hawkeye, of course, from Group B. And let's take a look at the semi-finals for tomorrow. So you can see that Tom 60229 is going to play Legendaren in our first game, and of course we start tomorrow at 5 PM British Summer Time. So we're going to have the semi-finals and the final. Hawkeye and Unskiller in the second, and then, of course, our grand final. Lothar, what do you make of our semi-finalists? Is it the case that anyone could win this tournament?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, still Hawkeye is the favorite here. I mean, he's favored to win the tournament because he has the most, I would say, experience, and he, like the impression of Hawkeye when I see his plays and see his games. He is the best player prepared to play in this tournament, I think. So I'll give him the best odds here.
Soro, what do you think? What do you make of our semi-finalists? And is it anyone's tournament to take, or do you think Hawkeye is still a strong favorite?
I think Hawkeye is a favorite based on the combination of his standing as a player combined with the quality of play we've seen so far today. I still think Tom definitely has a good shot. One of the things that has been brought up as a potential explanation for Tom being slightly below par is potential fatigue. He's had a long trip to get here. He's travelled significantly further than anyone
also
else.
Actually some issues with his hotel last night as well that interrupted his sleep as well. So
so it could be key that tonight he can really just try and get a good night's sleep, try and fight off the jet lag, not be interrupted in his hotel room at all tonight, and he might be able to tighten up his play tomorrow. And if he can do that, I picked Tom originally at the start of the day. He was my pick. So I think he has as good a chance as anyone if he can tighten up his play to the level that we know he can achieve.
Lothar, final thoughts on the day as a whole?
That's not your part?
No, my final thought comes later.
Okay. Well, I was really disappointed at the start of the day to see how players are doing, because I had the impression that most of the players are like being underperforming a lot. Like they had to win the qualifiers to get here, right? So why they are making so many mistakes during the broadcast itself. But as we were talking before, the nerves might be the issue here, not being experienced enough when it comes to offline appearances. But in general, the 4 players are advancing from the groups. I'm really fond of that. Like, I'm excited to see the games tomorrow.
So, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'd echo the sentiments. I think it's been a little bit disappointing seeing some of the quality of play we've seen today. That's not to say there haven't been some great sets and some great players. There have been people that have performed well, and there's been some exciting games of Hearthstone. I really hope now just everyone pulls it together and we see 4 players just playing at their best tomorrow, and we just see some quality sets of Hearthstone and a deserved winner.
Well, thank you, Lothar and Soro, for your thoughts and for your assistance on the analyst desk today. Of course, it's been a great tournament so far, but now it's time for Callum's final thought. Well, we've had a great day here at the Gfinity Summer Masters here in London. It's been an excellent tournament. 8 players came to fight out for $10,000, and now we have our semi-finalists. And I have to say, well, when we start at 5 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to crown a very much a worthy winner. But while they may not have all played well, they all get a well played from me. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m.